Okay, so today I want to spend a little time on other thoughts. So one of the things that it was pivotal for me when I first learned this, and so I expanded on it, and I think it's important because it does set up mindset. So it's the be, do, have model. So there are three key ways you can choose to live your life. So if you think about be, do, have, is the be is who do you aspire to be? Who is your being, your core? And then do is the things that you do, right, on a daily basis or weekly basis, whatever, the activities that you engage in. And then have is, it could either be things that you have in your possession, or it could be things in your proximity, things that impact your life. So it's the outside things that impact your activities, and then which then define who you are. So the three key personality types or areas. So the first one would be the victim. So the victim feels that if they have the resources, or they have the right surroundings, the right elements, the right things, then they could do whatever they would need to do in order to then finally be who they want to be happy, to do that. So they are looking at they're looking at the outside world to then affect, which affects their ability to do what they would do, to then affect who they are, who they are in their being, who they be. And part of that is that could be about emotions, it could be happiness, it could be integrity, it could be, whatever defines a person as being that kind of person. The second way of living is the controller. So a lot of us fall into this category, especially professionals, especially if you're competitive in any way. A lot of professional women fall in this. And the controller is interesting because I know that I knee jerk into that. I want to do the things, and there's different motivations. So the controller does, they do a lot. Either they're doing it because they feel like, it's egocentric and they just feel like if I don't do it, no one's going to do it right. Or they're doing things in order to people please, to make other people happy. A lot of us fall into this category. And we're going to go into trauma responses, and we're going to go into the whole somatic thing as we go. But in this case, so the controller is doing stuff either because they feel like they need to get it done and they can do it right, or because they're doing everything they can for other people pleasing. And like, if the more I do, the more important I am in the way of that I become integral. The more I do, the more value people will see in me. The more I do establishes my place in this world. So you feel like you are defined by the things that you do. And if you do it right, then people will celebrate you, and that will happen. And then if you can do all of those things for all the various reasons, then you can have the acknowledgement, the accolades, the peace of mind that things are getting done correctly. You can have all of these things, and then you can finally be happy, and you finally be content, and you'll be in the be, right? You have defined yourself. So that breaks down into the more effort I make, the more people will appreciate me, and that will define who I am. That's the controller. A lot of us fall in that category. And that is also kind of like the knee-jerk reaction. There's always what we want to do, and then there's always what we end up doing. And during times of crisis, you kind of like knee-jerk back into your core belief structures. And so I know that for myself, I go into controller a lot. I like to do the things because then I know that they get done, type of thing. Then there's the third way of being, which is what we aspire to be, and that's the creative. So the creative focuses on being who they are. They strive to be the person that they admire. So you can look at, there's several exercises that we do. One of them is we go back into childhood and we talk about who did you want to be or what did you want to be when you grew up? And that tells you a lot, because when you're a child, you're much closer to your true essence than as you grew up as an adult, because as you grew up in a family and then in school and then society, people start layering their expectations and you start reacting to that. And they also put they put onto you their fears, their problems. They're trying to, they could do it for the best reasons. They're trying to protect you. They're trying to make your life easier, or for the worst reasons, which is they're trying to make themselves feel better and they have to make you feel bad in order to do that. So for many, many reasons, as we grow up, we move further and further away from who our true essence is. So I love to do the regressions and kind of go back and talk about who did you want to be when you grew up? And that tells a lot about things. And then also, and if you can't do that, then find somebody that you admire and that you look at their life and you're thinking that person's got it together. And think about what is it about them that resonates with you that you feel you would like to emulate. And so that starts defining the person that you want to be, how you want to show up in this world. And then what happens is that once you can be who you are, be the person you aspire to be, you're then naturally going to do the things that that person does, right? If you aspire to be a yoga master, a yogi master, or whatever it's called, you'll behave that way. You'll be in that world. You will do the yoga, you will help people, you will find inner peace, you will automatically start doing all of those things. If you aspire to be a writer, then you're going to automatically do the writing thing because that's something you enjoy doing and that you aspire and it fulfills you. You do these things because they fulfill you and they complete a part of yourself that is the person that you're aspiring to be and the person that you want to be. And so if you're in the bee and you're doing what the bee would do, then you're going to have everything that that person would have. So it would be peace. It would be any, monetary things or the people around you or whatever you can imagine that you want to have in your life, you would then have it because you are being integral to who you want to be. Now, you can also reverse engineer that. And you can say, I want to have these things in my life. Well, in order to have these things in my life, I would have to do these things. So if you want to have a lot of money and you're driven by material things, no judgment. You want to have the big house, you want to have the great cars. That's beautiful. That's fine. It's how you get there. That's again another conversation. It's how you get there. That's the defining moment. So in order to have that, then that means what are the things that you'd have to do? Well, you would have to work and you would have to, do these things, invent something, do something. And so you figure out what you would have to do in order to get that. And then what kind of person would you have to be in order to do those things to get that? And then if you're reverse engineering it, now you look at that person, the person you would have to be, and do you like that person? Is that something that you really want to do? Now, an example of that would be, is I know people, or I've worked with people that they thought that they wanted to have all of these things because they had grown up thinking that that's what they were supposed to want. They grew up thinking that they had to have the big house and they had to have the private airplanes and they had to have the fancy cars, and that they grew up with someone else's expectations of that because that person would have found happiness with it. And so they were like, oh, I couldn't do it for myself, but you can do this and you should have that. Once they get all of that, then they're like, oh, wait, I'm still not happy. I'm still don't have joy in my life. And I've done all these things. And then they go through the things that they had to do to get that. And then they look at the person that they had to be in order to do those things. And they don't like that person. So it is easier. Let's say easier. Let's not say easier. It can be more efficient to work from who do I want to be to then that person will do, to then that person will have. And it's about being content with what you have. Or are you going to work from what you want to have to that's what you're going to have to do to that's the person you're going to be. So you can even work that from both ends and kind of find that middle ground. The idea is all of that needs to be integrated. And the idea is to find your joyful life, to find your heart-driven life, so that when you reach a certain point and you can look at yourself and be very happy with the person that you are. And again, I've said this before and I'll keep saying it, it is a working document. I have different exercises that I'm going to pull you through. Now, there's a story that I love. I don't even know who told it to me, or where I read it, but it's the fisherman and the millionaire. So the story goes, and if you know who wrote the story or you know where this comes from, I'd love to know it. Please put it in the comments and I'll tag them and give them credit for it, because I don't want credit for the story, but it resonated with me. So there was a man who worked his whole life and he had amassed a fortune. And so he always wanted to have a home on this Caribbean island that he had visited when he was a child. And so he finally had the resources and he went back to this island, and there's a cliff overlooking the bay, and it was like this amazing view. And he built this amazing house and he overlooks the bay, and he could, he flew there every once in a while and he would spend his time and he would have his morning coffee overlooking this cliff in the bay. And there's a village down at the bottom. And so every morning he would be out there having his coffee, and he would see this fisherman come in, and he would get out, and he had 3 fish, and he would give 2 fish to a boy that would come, and the boy would run off, and then he would give a fish to this little bar that was there, and he would get his beer, and he would sit under a palm tree and look out over the bay. And so, and the millionaire was sitting there watching this day after day, and he thought, So he said, I want to go down and talk to that fisherman. So he walked down one morning, and the fisherman came in, and he goes, hey, I own that house up on the hill, and I've been watching you, and I'm curious, where's that boy taking the fish? And he goes, oh, he takes it home, and my wife sells one, and then she makes dinner with the other one. And so, she sells one and gets what we need. And then this one I give to this guy, and he gives me beer, and he takes care of me. He watches my boat for me. And he goes, oh, and he goes, so, why don't you catch more fish? And he goes, well, I don't really need more fish. He goes, yeah, but if you caught more fish, then you could buy a better boat. And the fisherman was like, but why do I need a better boat? And he goes, well, because if you had a better boat, you could buy more fish. I mean, you could get more fish. And then with that, you could get many boats, and you could hire people, and you could, build a fishing empire. And the fisherman was like, but why would I want to do that? And he goes, because then you could build a house like mine and have your coffee and overlook the bay every day. And the fisherman was like, well, I already do that. Right? They were already enjoying the view, just from different vantage points. And then the millionaire looked at that situation, and he, went home and was thinking about it. What has he given up over his life to amass this fortune, to build this house? And how does it compare to the simple fisherman's life? Now, I'm not advocating that don't work hard, don't make your money, don't buy the beautiful things. I love having nice things. I live in a beautiful home. I live, in a beautiful city. I drive a nice car. I like to travel. I like doing all those things. But what are you giving up in order to do those things? And what are you expanding on to do those things? When is it enough? That's what you need to look at also when you're looking at who do you want to be? What are you going to do? And what are you willing to do? Because ultimately, what is it that you want to have? So those are very personal questions. If you want to get on a call with me, we can. You can go to the link. I'm doing, if you're part of this program, everyone gets a 30-minute consult or strategy session. So you can use that for that. And we can unpack that. But yeah, so be, do, have. That's the mindset portion of this week. So again, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow.